This week in Jamaica Now, legal showdown between Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the Integrity Commission. The head of government wants the law governing the anti-corruption agency struck down and parts of another law used to investigate illicit enrichment declared unconstitutional. Vybz Kartel's attorney Isat Buchanan to represent the PNP in parliamentary elections.
I'm always confident. I drown out the noise and I do. I'm somebody that do, so I don't just speak.
And why is Usain Bolt shocked and disappointed? I'm Jovan Johnson and this is Jamaica Now. A major legal battle is looming between Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the Integrity Commission over the non-certification of his income and assets for 2021, 2022 and 2023. Mr. Holness applied to the Supreme Court on September 30 for permission to seek a judicial review of the IC's August 2024 report into his financial affairs. A judicial review allows the court to scrutinize the processes used by a public authority to make decisions. He ultimately wants the court to reject the report as what he calls unlawful, unfair and premised on an unconstitutional provision in a law. The three applicants are Mr. Holness, his company Imperium Investments Holding Limited, and related entities Positive Media Solutions Limited and Positive Jamaica Foundation. The respondents are two senior executives of the Commission, Director of Information and Complaints Craig Beresford, Director of Investigation Kevin Stevenson, and the Commission itself. Mr. Holness says the report was intended to embarrass and harm him by suggesting criminal and unethical conduct by him and his connected companies. Mr. Holness has asked the Supreme Court to strike down sections of an anti-corruption law that the Integrity Commission uses to probe public officials for illicit enrichment. He alleges that parts of Section 14 of the Corruption Prevention Act are unconstitutional because they reverse the burden of proof and force public servants to explain if their assets are disproportionate to their lawful earnings. If Mr. Holness is successful, there could be implications for the 8 lawmakers that the Integrity Commission says are being investigated for illicit enrichment. Mr. Holness also wants the court to strike down the Integrity Commission Act, which was approved by Parliament under his administration in 2017. He said the act should go because of its alleged lack of fairness, impartiality and independence. The Commission's report covered a 15-month investigation into Mr. Holness's 2021 income filings. The Director of Investigation said he could not conclude on the issue of illicit enrichment because Mr. Holness refused to provide details of his expenses for the period 2019 to 2022. But Mr. Holness has rejected those allegations. And chaos reigned during a parliamentary sitting this week when opposition leader Mark Golding sought to move a motion of no confidence against the Prime Minister. The effort was shut down in Gordon House by Deputy Speaker Heroy Clark. That led to a walkout by the opposition members.
We don't have to hear it. And if I am going to stop you again if you go down that road.
Mr. Speaker, you've indicated this matter is sub judice. I'm not aware of that. However, what we are
not because you're a member.
What this motion engages is simply a matter
we are not
of a breach
member,
of the ministerial code of conduct
we are not
by the Prime Minister. That is not a matter.
Member. There's
However, Mr. Clark's position was contradicted by the Speaker, Juliet Holness, who said she would have allowed a debate on the motion.
I have, and myself particularly as Speaker, have repeated on many occasions that things need to get to the Parliament with adequate time so that we can read and we can ensure we follow the proper procedures. We were in fact notified by email that a motion would come, but it didn't come until just before I got to Parliament. And it does take some time to review and ensure that motions are properly laid. A signed copy of the motion came to me at the desk when Member Paulwell came to the desk during the sitting of the Parliament. And I just came out for a moment a while ago, and I note the opposition walking out. I was coming back to tell them I'd gone out because I was just completing my review so that they could go ahead and debate if they so choose. However, even though they heard as much, they continued to walk out.
Mr. Golding addressed the issue outside Parliament on Duke Street. Meanwhile, the Holness administration says it won't prioritize unexplained wealth orders, UWO, citing constitutional concerns and existing laws that it says are strong enough to address individuals with suspicious sources of wealth. This is despite repeated pledges over the years to implement a UWO regime. An unexplained wealth order is a court directive that allows law enforcement to confiscate assets from individuals who cannot demonstrate their wealth was obtained legally. Dr. Horace Chang, the National Security Minister, gave the update on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines on September 30 in response to a Sunday Gleaner story which reported his ministry saying that the policy was still at a concept stage. He said the government has not abandoned the idea, but said it will not be aggressively pursuing it because of other things on the government's agenda and the presence of other laws such as the Proceeds of Crime Act. Prime Minister Andrew Holness first signalled an impending policy in 2018, and in 2020 he signed a memorandum with civil society putting the issue formally on the agenda. In 2022 and 2023, Dr. Chang told Parliament the UWO law was coming.
Other bills others that are at the stage of bill, the Immigration Restriction, Commonwealth and Aliens Act, should be done in the first quarter of this year. So they're pretty advanced. They've been around for a long time. But it's a crucial piece of legislation for border control that is critical to our security. The Law Reform Zones and Special Operation Amendment Act say that bills prepared have been taking a little time because of the capacity we have, but we are pushing it through. In addition to that, we have the amendment to the Fingerprints Act and further amendments to the Proceeds of Crime to include provisions for unexplained wealth on the road and should be here during the course of this fiscal year.
The UWO regime would cover persons who are not public servants. Public servants are already covered by the Corruption Prevention Act. And while political drama was playing out at home, Prime Minister Andrew Holness was on a historic official visit to India. It was Mr. Holness's first visit to the Asian country and also the first ever bilateral visit of a Jamaican Prime Minister to India. He held meetings with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other officials. Mr. Holness also opened Jamaica's High Commission in New Delhi, which he says symbolizes Jamaica's commitment to strengthening its presence in India. The People's National Party has confirmed attorney Isat Buchanan as its representative for Portland Eastern constituency in the upcoming general election. In a statement on October 1, the party said Mr. Buchanan has made significant contributions to community service and advocacy and established strong connections with the people of the constituency. He received an enthusiastic welcome from supporters on Thursday. Mr. Buchanan will go up against Anne-Marie Vaz, the sitting Member of Parliament from the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP. The JLP says the PNP has no moral authority to speak on crime, corruption and ethics, noting Mr. Buchanan's 2 drug convictions and controversial comments about DPP Paula Llewellyn. Mr. Buchanan was an attorney for dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel, who was recently freed of murder. But the PNP has hit back at the JLP, saying it acknowledges that individuals can rehabilitate and return to serve their communities. It said Mr. Buchanan's past does not define him. It said the JLP's attempt to tarnish Mr. Buchanan's reputation contrasted with that party's history, which included the late government minister and MP Cleve Lewis, who was elected on a JLP ticket 3 times after leaving prison. The PNP also pointed to a notation that the US placed on a visa granted to JLP Cabinet Minister Daryl Vaz in 2021. Mr. Vaz has since responded, saying the notation was removed in 2022. He said the notation was added because of malicious allegations. He has instructed his lawyers to sue persons who made disparaging remarks about him over the matter. And the Jamaica Labour Party's Matthew Samuda was elected on September 30, the new Member of Parliament for St. Ann North Eastern. He secured 4,820 votes to defeat independent candidate and former PNP member David Anderson, who got 216 votes, and United Independent Congress representative Chase Neal, who polled 31 votes. The main opposition, PNP, did not contest the by-election, which was called after the JLP's Marsha Smith resigned in September. Voter turnout was 11.6%. Mr. Samuda resigned as a senator and cabinet minister to run for office. The police are yet to establish a motive for a deadly mass shooting in Westmoreland on September 30. 4 men were killed and 3 other persons injured following the attack at a party along New Road in Bethel Town in the Western Parish. 3 of the deceased have been identified. They are 41-year-old Tyler Damian Baker, O'Dane Scott, otherwise called Moses, and Rocky Lawrence. The Jamaican government is asking for patience amid the unease surrounding the Stocks and Securities Limited SSL fraud case. The appeal follows a Gleaner story on Thursday, which noted the frustration of 8-time Olympic champion Usain Bolt, whose company's account was allegedly defrauded of $12.7 million. More than 200 clients have been affected. Bolt's attorney Linton Gordon said the former athlete is shocked and disappointed at what he says is the lack of updates. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark, who will leave the job this month, said he understands the frustrations of clients but urged that the authorities be allowed to do their job. He said the Financial Investigations Division submitted a file to the Director of Public Prosecutions in December 2023 and that the investigators are in the process of getting 3 statements that the prosecutors require. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson, and before we go, 4-year-old Zaire Codner needs your help to save his eyesight. Here's a story from his mother, Bertina Pringle.
On August of 2023, I took him to get his eyes tested. And upon getting his eyes tested, he was diagnosed with retinal detachment. The institution that tested his eyes recommended us to a specific medical institution where he was a patient for over a year. The last 2 visits, he did a EUA, which is examination under anesthesia. They put him to sleep, took him to the operating room, where I thought they would be doing the surgery, only to find out that they only did eye examinations. After being released from the operating room, a doctor told me that he was losing vision rapidly in his left eye. I was very stressed out, and I am still very stressed out. Right? Like every day, even when I try not to think about it, thoughts flash through my mind saying, what if the day just comes suddenly where he can't see, he gets up screaming about he's not able to see anything. He's not able to ride his bicycle or play with his favorite toys because he's a car fanatic. So it does worry me, and it took a toll on my mental condition because majority of the time that's all I think about.
If anyone out there who is listening right now, I'm a very emotional person.
That's fine.
It is so hard to see when Zaire looking at stuff, he continue to turn his head right way on the right side at all time. And I know that because he's so young, he cannot tell me how bad his eyes is.